It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. Today we're going to be looking at the Hako Violet Switch. So, courtesy of my former co-host, I mean, he's still kind of a co-host, it's just my irregular co-host now, I guess is a better way of describing it. I was able to get off him a bunch of the Hako Violets. He had originally purchased them to do a project and he just never got around to them, and he was downsizing because of relocating and just said if I wanted them I could have them. So I said sure, why not, let's go for it, because I will at some point build them into a keyboard for the Switch library. So let's switch over to the desktop and get this show going. So there's my Switch collection, and there is a bag of 80 Hako Violets. First thing is, it's a box style Switch. Now, because it's a box style Switch, I guess the concern right now is this a cap cracker? I actually couldn't tell you because I don't know. Most likely it probably is. So until I actually either get a stem shaving device, anything that I build with this will only be cheap caps that will not likely be removed and replaced. And if it's a $2 or even a $10 keycap set from like Taobao or AliExpress, I'm not going to be too bothered by it. So that's the first thing to be aware of. I don't know about if Hako Violets have ever been retooled from that cap cracking fiasco. So that's what it looks like. It is a tactile Switch. It's a very light purple color there. So by comparison to a lot of the other purples, especially these pins are really sharp, especially to some of these other box switches. So that's the actual Kale box, or Kale / Novel Keys. Oh, that switch popped out really easily. That's the Novel Keys Box Royal there. That's a much darker purple by comparison. The glare is quite strong from the light above. So this violet color is much paler. It's closer to, I guess, really a lavender more than anything else. But if we just have a look at that comparatively, the stems on this look thick. So I'm going to say it looks actually quite similar to the thickness of this particular pale blue, the box pale blue that's there. So it is most likely going to be a cap cracker. Now in terms of the tactility, it's actually straight away, it's very soft. The spring weight on it, I'm going to say, is light. If I do, yeah, so it's lighter than that purple switch, whatever that is. That purple switch is a Otemu one. If I go with a Kale box brown, it's actually lighter than the box brown. So the standard box brown spring weight, if I turn that sideways so you can kind of see what's happening there, that Hako Violet is yeah, it's collapsing before the brown does most of the time. So in terms of the tactility, it's very weak. It's very weak. It is actually, however, stronger than that box brown, which says a lot, to be honest. It's also more tactile than the burnt orange, which also says a lot. It's definitely not as tactile as the box royal. Why am I holding this when I have this thing here? Yes, why am I doing that? I actually don't know what the correct orientation for this thing is. Help? Maybe this way? I think it's meant to be this way. Alright, there we go. So if I'm going to feel that, that's a Zeal V1. It's less tactile than a Zeal V1. It's less tactile than the silver. I'd say it's actually very similar to the Halo True, except for the fact that the Halo True has a heavier spring in it, so it's not a fair comparison because the response is very different. I'm going to say that the closest is actually going to be those two. So that one is, that's a Gatoron brown, but I'm not sure. Okay, so that's a lubed brown, and that's a stock standard brown, and I'm not sure what's up with these two, unless if it's just milky tops or spring weight. The more I feel this violet switch, the less tactile it actually feels. I know that seems really weird, but that's actually what my impression is. And the actual bump on it, there's a bit of pre-travel on that, and the bump is very short, and it's not very pronounced at all. Not very pronounced. Which is why I'm saying it's actually quite similar to the Gatoron brown. Yeah. It's more tactile than the cherry brown, which is this one here. So the Gatoron brown at least is doing something versus the cherry brown. So that's where I'm going to place it. I'm going to actually place it at the Gatoron brown, which is more tactile than the Kale box brown, but it's not anywhere as tactile as a box royal or a Zeal or even an Otemu tactile switch. Disappointing? Yes, no, I don't know. I didn't really have much expectations on the Hako Violets. I guess it's a relatively gentle tactile switch, so if you're leaning more towards a linear type of switch but you like to have a little bit of a sensation as part of that press, then this could actually be the switch for you. So let's go with a bit of sound sample. I don't want to put a switch on, I don't want to put a keycap on this, because if it's truly a cap cracker, I don't want to be damaged. Even if it's another random cap. My desk is a bit of a mess at the moment, so I don't know what I've got floating around. But let's just go with a little bit of a sound sample. So standard press test. Here we go. And if I do a flick type of test, I don't know if that really says very much, only because you're not really likely to be flicking your keys. Whereas if I do like rather than it being a gentle, because when I do the press, that's all I'm doing. But if I spam it, that's obviously going to give them a different result. So this is a spam sound. And including that full bottom out. You know, look, like I just said, it's not super tactile. There is tactility there. It's just not as strong as others, and it's definitely not as weak as others. It's kind of really in a mid to lower tactile plane. The spring weight's alright. It's quite a comfortable spring weight. The color, it's more of a lavenderish purple, whereas for me, when I say violet, I think of like African violets, which can be really rich color, which is closer to that box royal purple, or even that Otemu purple there. So wasn't quite the color that I'd thought before I'd actually received them. But other than that, it's not very much else to say. It's a box switch, so I would expect it to be relatively low wobble, which it is. You can see already there's not a lot of gaps in that for the stem to rock around and move, and it returns quite well compared to, say, this Otemu Sky, which I've been told, and from other discussions now, is not the 2.2 because that has a clear polycarbonate top. So anything that I've said in the previous video relating to the version, this is not the 2.2. So there you have it. That is the Hako Violet Tactile Switch. I actually don't know what the spring weight is. The packet doesn't even say what the spring weight is. And I imagine if I asked Kevin, he probably wouldn't even know what the spring weight is either. So if you think that's the switch for you, go out and check it out. Otherwise, if I get to put that into a keyboard at some point in time and you're in Sydney and you want to check out the Switch collection, please swing by. Hopefully I'll have it there, and yeah, you'll get to have a bit of a play. So now that can go into this slot in the spacebar, and I'll put that underneath the other Hako switches. So Hako True, Hako Clear, Hako Violet. There we go. Nice little family. And I need a better way. I keep saying it, but I really need to take some time and think about how I want to arrange a switch collection, especially if it continues to grow. Alright, thank you very much for coming along and checking out the video. If you like what we kind of do here, please hit that like button, please hit that share button, please hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to support us, you can buy us a coffee, you can head over to Patreon and check us out, get involved for as little as $1 a month. And of course, if you've never heard any of our podcasts and you're interested in listening, hearing, understanding a little bit more about mechanical keyboards and the mechanical keyboard community, please check out our podcast series called The Board Podcast. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and of course an RSS feed directly. And with that, I think we're done for this episode. So, as usual, until next time, happy clacking.